for my mate Brandon.
Hey guys, it's me Kai, Fillet. So right now, I was explaining to my good friend Brandon that whole situation with Sobro number 3 SBN3 what's going on, but I figure it's best for me to just make one long video about it rather than make like 30 individual 1 minute long voice messages to send on Instagram or whatever. So yeah, this is for you, Brandon, and anyone else who might be watching. So yeah, this is the tale of SBN3, also known as Soul Bro No 3, also known as Soul Brother number 3. Here represented by Gabriel Arenas of the Golden State Warriors, formerly. So yeah, let's get into it. So yeah, SBN3, over the course of his YouTube tenure, he made parody dubs and stuff like that. He did a variety of other things too, collaborated with a lot of other YouTubers and stuff like that. But I guess what he's mainly known for is his parody dubs. A good one is Batman Beyond Ill, which gave us one of the greatest, lines in YouTube history.
With the glass ceiling broken, all the oppressed groups shall prosper, especially the most oppressed group of all, gamers.
So yeah, Sobro's been around for a minute, and to be honest, he's been on the grind. He's been grinding, he's been writing, skits and shorts and videos and doing voice acting on the side as well. Not to, meat bounce on him any more than I already have with the 5 videos I made about his stuff. Sobro is 30-ish or something. So he grew up in the early 2000s and just constantly references really topical stuff from back then in all of his work, including I'll get to that. But Class of '09 and a lot of his albums that he's made. He's also made music as well. He's just very nostalgic for that whole era and everything like that. I shouldn't say a lot of his albums, I mean in all of his albums, because he only has 3. Not that that's to diminish what he did, but it's not he's putting out album after album what's his name, Viper. So yeah, so over the years, Sobro is collecting all this knowledge due to his love of film, and he learns how to edit, he learns how to color correct, voice act, sound design, write, do jokes, etc. So all of that comes to a head. It's not it's his, most people will think it's his magnum opus, but I really doubt he even thinks that. Comes to a head in 2019 with his visual novel Class of '09. So a visual novel is basically a video game without gaming in it. It's really hard to describe how it says a visual novel. You basically just have 2 little PNGs of a character or more on a screen, and then they talk, and sometimes you'll choose something, and that's the game. It makes it sound way worse than it is. Sometimes they're really, intuitive and stuff like that, but it's not very gameplay heavy. You're not going to be dodge rolling and sidestepping and sweating playing, Doki Doki Literature Club or whatever. So Class of '09 is this game in which you play as this girl right here. You can see her in a blue shirt, Nicole, who is very mentally unwell, and it is not helped by the fact that she lives in a horribly racist, sexist, horrible world. Or maybe it's just because they live in the DMV. It just sucks. It's a horrible, this whole world is horrible. And so you just meet these terrible guys, and then you basically convince them to ruin their own lives. It's very fun. It's not as sad as it sounds. Not yet, at least. But it's a very fun game. And over to the left is her best friend and a major fan favorite, Jekka. She's my favorite character, much more than Nicole. Love them, but I love Jekka. It wouldn't be too far off to say that this wasn't a great return on investment for him, since he spent like thousands of dollars making this, which is shocking to hear, to think about at first, seeing that the game is, PNG sliding around on stock photos, but a good chunk of the game, its budget went to the voice actors. I'm fairly certain, because a lot of these people are professional, like, voice actors. A lot of them, I was like, what? Like, these are people I hear regularly. I was like, this is crazy. But I think it was kind of a sleeper hit, so it didn't do great at first, but then slowly, build them back up and develop like a small, like a cult following, like a small group of people, most who already knew of his work, and I guess some newcomers. But I think it's fair to say that the majority of his fan base, me included, his current fan base, at least for the class of '09 games, arose last year. Last summer, 2023, he released a game, the sequel to it, Class of '09, The Re-Up, which is kind of like a sequel and kind of not. He makes it sound a lot more confusing than it is, but when I try describing it, it does sound kind of confusing. But it's a sequel that basically takes place at the exact same time period as the first game, and in some points takes place before and during the first game, so it's kind of just more of the first. So it's an amazing game. I was literally dying. The first one had me hooked. The second one, I was just dying laughing playing this game because it is so funny, so well written. But yet last year, the re-up came out and it blew up on TikTok, and not just on any TikTok, like specifically like the girly girl kind of TikTok. I feel like it's mean calling it that, but that's kind of what it is, like the girls who listen to like Charlie XCX and stuff like that, and who put like OMFGHM and did like just spam a bunch of stuff. It's just like, this is so horrible. When they, they're like, this is amazing. It is amazing, and it's funny. I've said it before in one of my other videos about it was like a class of '09 tier ranking video, but it was like, it feels like American Psycho, when the dude bros are like, bro, this movie is based. It's about, killing hookers and dancing and being, crazy in society and such. But when you watch the movie, it's about a guy who is so lonely and pathetic, he pays prostitutes to talk to them about music and kind of just imagines doing this horrible stuff. But it's just like a buff loser. And then on top of that, it's written by women too, so you're like, misogynistic, but it's written by women, so it's like, what are we doing here? So it's something similar to that. It's like SBN3, just the way he writes his jokes and the subject matter that he chooses to touch upon. I'm not saying that he is, but I'm saying it's not that hard to tell that he's a reformed racist. I called it a reformed racist, like the dude who said the N-word a lot in high school and felt bad and now kind of makes up for it by listening to Kanye and stuff like that. So you could tell, like, yeah, so, but not a lot of other people could tell. It's kind of like with Hot Diggity Demon, Max G or whatever, like that dude when I was a kid was so, I was like, do people know what he, like, I'm not trying to, trudge it up, but I'm like, do you guys know, or are you gonna like find out after he, kills off Glip Glop or whatever the little ghost name is, and then people are like, okay guys, back in the day he used to say the F word, like, is that what's gonna happen? which also, funnily enough, kind of happened here too. So, oh my goodness, Class of '09, the re-up came out. I become a huge fan. I'm looking at this dude's stuff. I'm like, wow, this dude is hilarious. And he made, the gamer meme. And he did this. And I'm just like, wow, this is great. And I just fall in love with his work. I'm loving it. I'm loving it. McDonald's. I had made a video a while back, a tier list video talking about his characters, which I love. A video in which I like freestyle over one of the instrumentals to one of his songs. It's a good instrumental. I love it. And another one where I'm bugging out because the Flip Side trailer got released. Now this is where it starts to get juicy, because the Flip Side is the third entry of the game. Now, big Brandon, I'm telling you this game was hyped. People were excited. People were going crazy, drawing fan art like, oh my God, it's coming out. People were hooked, excited. They were ready. But it felt very soon, because the first game came out in 2019. The second one came out in 2023. That is one Olympic. That is one presidential term. That is the same amount of time between Avengers and Civil War. It's like a lot of time, man. This one is coming out barely a year after the last one. And I highly doubt he just was like, all right, this one came out, time to get started on the next one, because it was a popular game. It really boosted him. And I think he didn't really like his fan base a lot. He didn't like a lot of the girly girls joining, so he couldn't really be himself as much. It's really funny because every now and then I'll join like a live or Twitter space he's on, and it'll be like really, really nerdy dudes or like 14-year-old girls are like, oh my gosh, I love this game. Nicole is literally me. And he's like, oh yeah. And I'm like, oh, poor guy. But it's like, at the end of the day, you can't choose who likes the game. You can only choose how you like to accept them. And so I guess he chose not to accept them, because for you, Brandon, I'm going to use a Kanye analogy. It's like Class of '09, the first one. That one was late registration. Class of '09, the re-up, that was graduation, Kanye's albums. In Class of '09, the flip side is vultures. So it's like a steep drop. A lot of people will say the third one isn't good at all. It's a horrible game or whatever. I don't think that. Maybe I just had lower standards because I didn't go into it after playing the first two games. Like I played Class of '09, then the re-up, like back to back after watching them for the first time on YouTube. Oopsie. But I was like, yeah, okay. But this one, I just went into raw. I was excited to play because a couple days ago on Monday, I had made that video where I talked about, my fake YouTuber group, and, was excited for the flip side because it came out that day. And I think while I was getting ready to go to one of my classes, I had saw something that was like, it's shorter and it only has 5 endings, which is like a shocker, because the first game had like 12 and the second had like 8 or 9. This one had 5. So, and then it was coming out, again, the first one in 2019, the second one in 2023. That is a 4-year gap to advance your skills and everything like that. This one comes out 2024. And it's not like he just, was like, oh man, I gotta start working on it. Like, he had some time, he chilled for a bit, I'm guessing, while still making some stuff, but mainly just pitching the game after it came out and coasting on that little, wave of success from the, not little, not to make it sound like it's less than it is. He's doing much better than me, but come on. Like, this was a slap job. So on my way to class, I'm like, don't worry, okay, I guess I'll play it later on this week. But I'm so excited to play this game because, I just love the game. I love the world. And then while I'm driving to my class, I get an ad, and it is a Dunkin' ad, and not just any specific Dunkin' ad. It is an ad for a Dunkin' Latte voiced by Kaylee Mills, who plays Jekka, my favorite character from Class of '09. I Google it, and people are like, yeah, people been knew about this, and her doing other ads for Dunkin'. So I'm like, this is a sign. I've got to play it as soon as I get home. So I'm like, I'm not going to look up anything at all. I'm not even going to go on Twitter, nothing. So go to bed that night. Next morning, I'd get up, do, clean, such, and I hop on that game, Class of '09, the flip side. So yeah, I'm on this game, and I'm so excited. And I'm like, okay. And as soon as it starts, it's like, like you can sense something is amiss. Like the vibes are off. I'm not one of those people that are like, I didn't like that person. He had a bad vibe. But I'm like, the vibes are strange. You can sense there's an aura around this with malintent. I start playing it. Jekka, she wakes up. She's like, oh boy, what do I do? So I'm playing as Jekka. She goes and then she meets her dad. And he's like, Jekka, you gotta get a job, honey, because, your mom just divorced me. And if you don't, I'm gonna slap your face, black and brown or whatever. So he's like threatening to beat her. And I'm like, okay, cool. And it's like a crazy thing. All the games are crazy, but this one I was like, it feels especially strange. It's like those memes where people are like, me when on Aqua Teen Hunger Force they're mean to the meatball, and it's like a TV with like half the screen punched in. Like, that's what it feels like. So now the game is on. I'm playing it. And in the game, Jekka, she graduates from high school, but is kind of aimless and needs to make money. What does she do? She gets a diner job. In the game, they say she's making $2 an hour plus tips. I'm like, maybe I just had it good at McDonald's, but I have never heard nothing like $2 an hour. That is comical. It is comical. It's a comedy game. But dog, I was like, what? So she's getting this horrible pay, and then what happens? But the nerd character, Jeffrey, comes up to her at the mall. He's like, hey, Jekka, it's me, Jeffrey. And so this is the point at which it begins to become devious, because Jeffrey, the nerd, he says, Jekka, I've always found you so beautiful and everything, and you've got a pretty, face, pretty eyes and hair, and such and so on, and pretty feet. I'll say, because he's a weirdo, he's a gooner. So I'm like, okay, but he says, you know what, Jekka, if you'll let me, I'll give you $100 to step on me. He was like, you know what, actually, no. And she turns around, she's about to leave. $200. And then she's like, ugh. Like, I'm not even getting paid $200 for the day, or whatever, for the week. So, sure. Well, I'm not sure. She's like, I'm not sure. And it comes up, and it's a little prompt that tells you either to tell him yes or to go kill himself. Now, Brandon, I'm not a weird guy. You know this, or for the most part. I was curious. I was like, this game is so weird. All these games are weird. And these are often the funniest and most bizarre, paths in these games, the weird stuff. So I was like, you know what, fine, whatever. And usually in these games, since it's floating images, they don't really show anything graphic unless it's like the endings or whatever. Or not the endings, yeah, like the endings are the like little cinematic shots they show, periodically. So I was like, all right, I'm ready. And but the second I click yes, I am greeted to this image, dog. Why? And it's not like you just see her and then like stepping or whatever. You hear him going like, oh yes, they're so soft and supple. Oh yes, and everything. And she's like, yeah. He's like, you're great. A lot of men would pay great money for you on feetmeat.com. And I was like, oh my god. So honestly, I'm dying laughing. I just think it's hilarious. But then he's like, you know what? This is, they wrap it up. It's so they wrap it up. She leaves and then later on goes to the mall again after a while and meets up with another one of her former classmates. Well, yeah, classmate. And he's like, "Hey, you're from Feet Meat, right? The foot fetish website." She's like, "Yeah." He's like, "All right, great. Let's do this in a what do you say, a lens crafter's bathroom." And then I am greeted to this image, and it's not like you play the game and then like an hour or two later or whatever, because the game's not even that long. No route is that long. Like you just happen to stumble across it again. I was live tweeting basically while I was playing this at first. Um, the first part happens. I tweeted at 11:47. The second time at 11:57. Dog, and then it's like later on throughout the route, you are greeted with two different options. And in one of them, Nicole, she finds out and she's like, hey, can I get in on this money that you're getting? Because she's getting like $8,000 a month now in this game. And she's like, yeah, sure. And then it happens again. And so I'm playing this game and my jaw is on the floor. Because at first, like, I'm enjoying this. And honestly, at this point, I'm still enjoying this because I think Jeffrey is so funny. Every time he opens his mouth, I laugh. And the route this path goes, it gets really grim really fast. And, but, again, it's like a good majority of this route involves feet and toes, which is mad weird in some people's opinion. And to be honest, I'm like, it's like it's funny, but I could have spent more time on character and not feet and toes. But that's just me. I'm no Tarantino, so that's one ending, and then the other ending is directly tied to this one when you tell her no, and that one is also very sad, much sadder, probably the worst ending in the game. But it is just so bizarre that 40% of the endings, 2 out of the 5, revolve around her stepping on dudes. It's very strange. And they're not the only ones. They don't show a lot of the other people, but there is one scene where she's stepping on someone in a parking lot for some reason. Again, like, So I go online and I'm looking up, like, okay, what do other people feel about it? Because honestly, I'm having fun, but again, the vibes feel a bit strange. Like, the other games were mean, but this one just feels really, really, really mean for some reason, especially towards Jekka. And she's like, the golden child. So I go on Twitter, see what's up. People don't like it. And then I go on Reddit, the Class of '09 Reddit, where everybody loves everything about this game, regardless of whatever. People calling it the foot side.
The foot side?
They calling it the foot side.
The foot. F-O-O-T. Not fruit by the foot. We're talking feet and toes.
Kim Wexler.
Brody had Die Hard, Bruce Willis Die Hard fans who were ready to say anything to defend him at any given moment, talking about how well written it is, talking about how amazing it is, talking about the representation, and now they turned on him. And I was like, is it just because of the feet and toes? Because people calling it the foot side. But as I continue to examine, the stuff said about him, and as I continued to play the game, I was like, So earlier, I had mentioned that he doesn't really like his fan base, some of his fan base. And it seems as if, perchance, he used this game as a sort of super extreme way of trying to weed out the chaff from the wheat by making a game so shockingly vile that the people who love the game would not like it as much, and the people who hated the game would end up leaving him. So, or doing whatever. He just kind of tanked it on purpose, I think, which was really strange because he had so much goodwill, but I don't know. So I'm sitting there in kind of shock and awe at both of those endings. The first one, I was like, oh, that sucks. The second one, I was like, oh, I really don't like that. That made me sad in a deep way. And so throughout the rest of the day, because my laptop sucks when it comes to charging, it dies fast, and if I try to plug it in, it just dies again because I mess with the battery by keeping it plugged in too long or something. I don't care, but I want to be able to defend it, but at the end of the day, I just wasn't feeling it like that. The first two games, I literally cried at. It sounds lame to say, but I cried playing those because they were just so. They were they hit me in such a bizarre way with this strange sense of a bizarre mix of self-awareness and sincerity and everything like that. So I loved it and loved them. And this one, it feels just so mean because the entire game is Jekka, this beloved character who's kind of become an icon for the girly girls of the fan base, which I think is why he chose her. She does nothing except get manipulated, beat on, mistreated, threatened to, be killed and smacked around, threatened to be raped, threatened to be molested and such. Some of them she end up actually does or almost does. And yeah, the first ending, spoilers for anyone else who might be listening, but this is for you, Brandon. The first ending I got was the nerd guy, Jeffrey. Nicole gets bored and forces him to eat a bunch of Xanax and Xanax and Robitussin, and then wash it down with Jack Daniels or something, Captain Morgan. The second ending is after you tell Nicole no instead of telling her yes. I got she, your life gets worse and worse because all the guys from the foot fetish site, start stalking you and asking you for wilder stuff and everything like that. And Nicole becomes vexed at you, so you walk in on her with her toes in your dad's mouth. So that's something. And then you kill yourself at the end of it. It's the way they did it was crazy because it starts at your like pink, like freshly painted toes, your feet, and then it pans up to her in her underwear, and next to her is a bottle of pills and her dead. So I was like, wow, what a shot. But that was the second ending I got. The third ending I got was, oh yeah, that's right. She decides to go to she gets a job at like FYE, like one of those video stores from way back when. I think maybe I can't even remember. This dude is old. No, but she gets a job there and finds out that she and one of her old classmates aren't getting paid, and so they go on this whole weird enourate quest with riddles and stuff like that, which is very out of the blue for this game. It is like, imagine if at the end of The Hangover or whatever, the Riddler popped out and he was like, "All right, Stu, I need you to unlock the bomb vest I put on Alan's chest by solving 3 riddles." Like, it just doesn't make any sense. But you go on this quest and then you end up opening like a secret warehouse underneath a mall with like a lanyard, and then it opens like this magic locket, and then it's like CP, just straight. They don't show it, but it is a warehouse filled with illegal pornography and such. And they're like, "Is there a child porn lane?" They're like, "They don't just have a lane for it, they have a wing." And then at the top it's like a hallway, and at the top of it says child porn wing. And then there was like, oh my god. And they're like, "They don't just have one, they have 2." Then it says child porn wing, and in parentheses underneath it, I swear, man, you've got to play it. Influenced by the works of Dan Schneider. Dog. Really. Dog. And a lot of people were really rubbed the wrong way by this joke, not mainly because of the subject itself, but the fact that it is, for me at least, came directly after 2 endings about feet fetish, which is the main thing Dan Schneider was made fun of for by the internet for like years. But once you get to that ending, I was like, "Oh, all right, this is what we're doing." I was like, "Yeah, this is the game now, I guess." Her school counselor who sent them on this riddle, kills her friend, her coworker, shoots her dead, and he's like, "Well, I let you know too much now," and so he plans to shoot her. And then he gets shot by an FBI agent. And she's like, "Oh, thank God you came to save you." And he was like, "Save you?" More like under new management. And he, instead of killing her, because he was like, "We can't technically kill you," he sells her to the Taliban to be a slave in Pakistan. Dude. And So that's ending number 3 for me out of 5. The fourth ending I got was I can't even remember. She goes to work at Hot Topic and gets drunk and drunk drives into like a girl that a lot of people like. Now that I'm saying it, it sounds so bare bones because it kind of is. I remember at one point I tried to save something and then accidentally clicked and went to the main menu, and I hadn't saved in a while, but I had just held down the fast forward button to make it through the choices, and it was usually it's like for the first game it's like and then choice and then choice and then choice, and then you kind of get back. I was like choice. Okay, we're here now. I was like, I've really just been sitting here watching it for this long? Because I never even. The last game, it was like interactive enough. People were talking about it back then, how there weren't that many choices. Someone said, I can't wait to, press a button and watch a movie again. But that is quite literally what this is. Some of these routes, they're supposed to be like interactive, but you click and then you watch 30 minutes of uninterrupted cutscene, and then another choice pops up and it happens again and then it ends. What? And you do it 5 times. It's crazy. Oh my goodness. And so that ending happens. She drunk drives and kills a girl, and nothing happens. Again, it's a weird ending. No stakes, no nothing. It just ends. But the final ending was by far the best one, the most creative one, the most well written one for me that I got, which tied into like another ending from a different game. And I was like on the edge of my seat because it tied into in the first game there is an ending where Nicole, who's like the super aggressive, super cynical, mean one, tries to be nice and then ends up being too nice and then gets walked all over and then her life is ruined and then she kills herself. Sad. However, in this game, it takes place from Jekka's perspective. So you see why she couldn't help Nicole because she's always busy helping Nicole. So I feel like that one was definitely the best written because it feels like he noticed something was wrong in one game and then went and explained, okay, this wasn't just like some character oversight. I mean, at the time it might have been, but this, was genuine. Like she had her own thing going on, which adds not only to the enjoyment of the game and the first one, but retroactively makes it a little bit better. So I was like, this is great. And so it kept going and going. Then it got to the scene and I was like, oh, like my heart sank. I literally paused it. I was like, I can't watch this again. But I watched it and I was like, okay. And so she was like, what do I do now? And the therapist is like, it's sad that this happened, but you need to keep moving on and stuff. Again, not that bizarre. Some other dude was like, it's so weird that a therapist will be saying this, but it is kind of weird how like she's like, okay, just let it go, even though it's been a week. But like she's right. She's like, you can't just hold on to your friend forever, and she's like, the world keeps on moving, and she's like, yeah, it does, and then it ends. Like I was like, okay, maybe since this was the last one, it tried to like psych me out and then put the real ending in the credits or something, or a video message, or nope, the best path in the game. There's no little ending monologue, no nothing. So it goes, yep, I guess so. and then it ends. I was like, huh? Okay. It's like Morbius, almost. Imagine if Morbius was a good movie, but Morbius, how that movie goes is it's a full movie. It's got a beginning, a middle, and then a final. Like his girlfriend dies. There's a fight scene, and then there's a lot of not loose ends, but just like general stuff that needs to be wrapped up. But he kills the villain, and then he flies off, and then everyone watches, and the movie ends. There's no ending like here's what I'm doing, here's what everyone else is doing. It just ends. That's how that one ends. So there are like these little video messages, and it's like, how spooky and scary, you made the bad decisions and forced this on everyone. And I was like, all right, man. So at the time I was like, and it just rattled me, because I was like, this wasn't, it was fun at times, but not as much fun as either of the other games. People were like, this game isn't funny at all, 4 out of 10. But it was funny. And it did have good writing, and it did have well-written jokes. But a lot of the time, it just kind of coasted and seemingly existed just to spite fans and stuff like that. And people didn't really like that. And so, like I had thought would happen eventually, people turned on him and then started talking about his past. And not just like, they went back. There was one person on Twitter who said that he used to bully autistic kids on Skype and stuff like that, and that they were one of them. And I was like, well, maybe they're not even. And before I could even finish the thought, they're like, here's a video of him saying, calling me a retard, calling me this, calling me that. I'm like, dog, why would you? And it was 1000% him. And it was like 2 minutes of it. And then I go on YouTube, and there's just videos and videos of like, so bro number 3 fell off. So bro number 3 this. He fell off. He did this. And then there's a video talking about like the drama is crazy, and someone in the comments was like, yeah, there's a whole Reddit thread from someone who's their old friend. I was like, no. And I went and looked on Reddit, and there was someone who said like, yo, I'm so bro number 3's old best friend, here, ask me anything, on Class of '09, the subreddit. And again, all day, the last, what's today? Thursday. Since Monday, people have been taking a big steaming dump. Every single person. Very rarely have I seen anyone say anything positive about this game. But this was the catalyst. This is what made people snap. Apparently. And so this person was like, yeah, I knew him, and I have the receipts to back it up. Here's me in the video stream with him. Here's my voice. Here's the voice in the video. Here's, his old YouTube channel. Here's some DMs, and here's the actual episode. Here's an episode of his podcast, and here's him talking about it with me the same day, and then here's the actual podcast with me on it. And I was like, dog. And then he was like, and here's a video from like 2009. And I was like, maybe it's not even him. And I clicked on it, and I was like, dog, that is 1000% him. Like, it just sounds like him. It's him.
All right, who wants to give their say on KFC first?
Me.
All right, Max, you go first.
Well, personally, I believe that the Kentucky Grilled Chicken was a very good step in the market. I don't like how they overspiced it. I think they put oregano on it, which I frankly think is quite gross. And according to my calculations, KFC's the bomb, nigga.
I'm sorry, I think Ryder interrupted the last part you said. What'd you say?
According to my calculations, KFC is the shit.
Ah,
It's kind of false advertising.
Could you not put me in the same category as McDonald's?
When do they false advertise?
The 10-piece McNugget? Sometimes you get the Siamese nuggets joined at the breading, and they count that as 2 and shortchange you an extra nugget.
I mean, I kind of count that as 2 too.
Oh, so I get 2 McNuggets, half the crispy breading, and I still gotta pay full price. You're a capitalist, aren't you?
So yeah, Brandon, I had vastly underestimated the depth of which this went to, because to be honest, I really don't like the whole idea of cancel culture. It seems very performative, seems very reactionary. You know, someone did something we didn't like, and now it's time for us to air out our dirty laundry after all this time. Like the Diddy stuff. Like, people knew Diddy was doing weird stuff for decades, and now they're like, all right, time for me to come clean. It's like, no, you just kind of want to capitalize on the moment and also get your hands washed off while you're doing it. Sometimes it feels like that too, where it's like, all right, Class of '09 is bombing and people don't like him as much now, so now I have the chance to step in. But it's like, you know, it's also good sometimes. It's hard to describe. It's weird. But like, I really, like, sometimes I just don't like the idea of dredging up stuff from when people were 15, you know, or whatever, and being like, oh, look at what they said back then. Like, even when someone's a grown man, you know, in 2013, I'm like, that was 2013. Everybody was saying horrible stuff. If you want to find every single person for, you know, something terrible they said on Twitter back in 2012, then everybody, you know, would be paying. That would be a whole separate bracket, you know. Like, oh, I'm paying my income tax. Oh, gotta pay my cancel tax. I sound like Bill Burr right now. But, yeah, like, it's just, like, weird. But, again, he was, like, a grown man in the, you know, 2010s and stuff like that. And, well, no, when was he? I think they said he was like 15 in 2009. So mid 2010s, he was a grown man, but still bullying people online, and bullying autistic teens, and then apparently picking up like freshly 18 girls and stuff like that, and on his Discord talking to people like, all right, time for my girlfriend auditions. Like, it's grim. And now I'm like, did I place all my eggs in the wrong basket? But I feel like this is what Kendrick said. You know, when shit hits the fan, is you still a fan? The Ghost of Mandela. The last part doesn't really apply here, but yeah. Like, they had some pretty damning evidence, to be honest. Not to, like, be mad at, like, the KFC clip or whatever, but it's like, they knew him to an extent. And, you know, throughout when he was 15, he was saying wild stuff. And then when he was 20-something, he was saying wild stuff. Now it feels like he's trying to make up for it, you know, and that's good. But he quite honestly does have, you know, ego issues and stuff like that. He sells a master class on how to, like, do all this film stuff, and, like, all power to him. But he greatly, that sometimes overestimates his own ability, which is sometimes needed when you're a creative. But it's like, it's like the Stanley Kubrick thing. It's like when you're an ass and then you make something amazing, then you're you know, like a boom mic director or whatever. But then when you're being horrible to everyone and then you make something bad, then you're just like a jerk for no reason. Like with method acting. Christian Bale, you know, emaciated himself to like be one role and then became bloated for another role and then became a boxer build for Batman, and in the span of like 5 years, which isn't healthy, but he did it for his job. And each time I'm fairly certain they were amazing. And then you look at Jared Leto, who sent, dead rats and condoms to people in Suicide Squad, and then you started a cult around the time he was a cult leader in that one movie, and then pretended not to be able to walk when he was Morbius and needed people to like take him to the bathroom and stuff like that. And each one was a bomb. So then it's like you're not really a genius, you're just like rude for no reason, and you want to write that off. So I feel like that's kind of what's happening here. To be honest, I still respect him and his work. Love his work. It deeply affected me. I love it. But it's like in the coming days and weeks and months, it's going to be time for not only him, but the people who worked with him. I feel like a lot more people are going to be coming out in that Reddit stream. Again, there are like 200 comments. I sat and read nearly all of them. There are 278 comments. I must have read like 270 because 8 of them he didn't respond to, or like a few were just like whatever, fake news, stuff like that, even though he had literal receipts. But in that stream, that thread, there were people who was like, oh yeah, here's the old comment from a coder who worked on Class of '09 who couldn't do some extremely specific coding combination because it needed to like the rapid fire dialogue had to go around, and sync up with the subtitles perfectly, but you couldn't make it go that fast. So the guy wasn't able to do it, even though he did a lot of other stuff to streamline the coding process, and that he just didn't get paid, period. It seems like a lot more stuff is going to be coming out. And honestly, I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen, but I felt like it's going to be high time for everybody who worked with him to, give their piece. I feel like a lot of the people have become very intertwined with him. LC Lovelock, she's a voice actress. She's in a lot of different stuff. She's in YouTube series, TV series, anime dubs, and makes music. And in his final, music album, 07 to Heaven, she was a feature. She sang on one of his songs, the hook. It was a New Testament. So, and then she played Nicole. So it'll be very weird and come off very badly on her as well if she, in some people's eyes, if she just pretended like she didn't know him, or pretended like it was just something that was like, well, it is what it is. But I feel like a lot of people have become so intertwined with like the character they played that it will be hard for people who became big fans of them to continue to be fans of them without them explaining what was up or even acknowledging it. So it's been on my mind for the last couple of days, Brandon, but this has been just bugging me, and it has really bummed me out. And I'm like, the day I finished playing it, I remembered I started playing 2K17, and I was just bombing in the game because I was just thinking like, man, Jekka got human trafficked in this game. And then I forgot to tell you, that's right, in the end of the game, it's like, thank you all for playing. And by the way, apparently there's some pedophiles who've made their way into the Class of '09 community. And here's some phrases that they use to identify themselves. I don't like Class of '09, the flip side. I don't like Class of '09. I don't like SBN3. Stuff like that. And I was like, I chuckled, but it's like it feels really inflammatory and really reactionary, and I liked it for for the most part. But at the end of the day, it was McDonald's. You're like, you ate it and you're like, oh, I feel bloated, but I feel empty at the same time, and I should eat something actual, but I feel like if I do now, then I'll just vomit. Because, yeah, I don't know. SBN3, he's a weird dude. He just really doesn't like white women for some reason, and it's like if Spider-Man, hated poor people after a poor dude killed Uncle Ben, but he himself is poor. It's like, dude, you're kind of working against yourself, but whatever. So yeah, I don't know. This whole thing was weird, and I just wanted to tell you, Brandon. And I felt like it was a lot, but in video format, I could take my time, and you could listen to this while you're eating or, playing Fortnite or whatever. I don't know. What do you play, Brandon? COD? Overwatch? I hope not. Please get off that if you do. And to anyone else who's watching, shout out to all my non-Brandons. Thank you all for watching, and thank you, Brandon, and I hope this explained it. And I'm sorry it was so long, but I just wanted to take my time with this. I might be too strung up on confidence, overdose on compliments, started not to give a whoops, and stop hearing the compliments. Wait, thank you for all for watching. Off the dome. I might be too strung up on compliments, overdose on confidence, started not to give up, stop fearing the consequence, drinking every night because we dream to my accomplishments, fade away as long as going in and out of consciousness, and they're saying I'm back, I agree with that, I just take my time with all this, I still believe in that, I had someone tell me I fell off, ooh I needed that, and they wanna see me pick back up, where'd I leave it at, I know I exaggerated things, Fillet, come on baby.